Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday on TLDChat. My name is Brent Schlenker, and today we're going to be talking about projects with Shannon Tipton, the rebel, the queen rebel of learning, rebels.com. And projects are going to be something that we all have to deal with, actually, that we all are dealing with. And so it is always a pertinent topic to talk projects on Tuesdays. And before we do that and get too close into it, I want to encourage everyone, whether you're watching this live or watching the recording, to go to TLDC.us and support us and your community members by just joining the newsletter, subscribing to the newsletter. We will not bombard your inbox. We will only give you the information that is relevant, pertinent, and important to the training, learning, and development community. But this gives us an idea of joining the newsletter. Basically tells us that, hey, you like what we're doing and you want to be a part of what we're doing and you want to stay connected with us. And we appreciate all the support that we've gotten in the past through TLDC 16 and until now, and we'd like to see it grow, and we'd like to have you share it with your friends. So be sure to do that via all your social channels. If you like what we're doing here, if you like the idea but you don't like how we're executing it, let me know. Send me some information. Tell me what you would rather see, what you would rather have us do, what you would get more value from. We want to be effective. Our whole reason for being here is to help you get the work of training done. And while we do have some guests from time to time, or we will, like yesterday's guest, for example, we will go outside the box and bring in some ideas, and some creative conversation will be created around folks that aren't necessarily in our industry, but there is always a good reason for that. And I hope that it sparks, you just getting outside your comfort zone and trying different things and understanding that that we sometimes get a little bit isolated within our bubble of learning and development. And it's important to remember that the whole entire world is not part of your job and your career. And there are people who are engaged in the work that we do that, aren't a part of the industry, don't know the lingo, and for the most part, don't really care. So it's important for us to understand that and to be effective in our work. We need to provide business value. We need to get better at the projects we do. We need to get better at the teams that we do. And with that, I will also introduce you to, I will unfocus us momentarily. Hello, and there's Shannon. I was going to show I'm going to close the video and I'm going to re-screen share and pop up the rings of focus. This is not something that I invented. I'm certain that there are project management gurus, there are self-help gurus, there are people all over the world that have done these types of things better. But this is how I kind of organized TLDC 16, and it turned into a graphic, and it became part of how we just organized the conversations. And it works for me in organizing my thoughts, and I think it's a pretty decent graphic around the work that we need to do to get better at what we do. So there's you in the center, which we focused on yesterday by talking with Mike Chesworth. Today we're talking about projects. It's Tuesday. Wednesdays we're going to talk about the teams, team structures, working in teams, hiring teams, all of the things that surround being in a team. Is Wednesdays. Thursdays is organization and industries and industry. How do you work within your organization, within your business? How do you work with IT? How do you work with legal? All that good stuff. And then how do you give back to the industry? And how do you engage with the industry, like being a part of the TLD community, which is a part of TLDC. And Friday, of course, is Video Friday, and we have tons of fun on that day. So with that, I would like to introduce our guest for today, talking about projects, Miss Shannon Tipton. How are you?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
Good. Very, very good for a Tuesday. So
very good for a Tuesday.
Yes, it's almost Wednesday, right? We are this close, this close. And then we are that much closer to the weekend. It's always good. Hey, Mike. Hey, Paul. Hey, everybody. I saw some new faces in the chat. Let me just say, for those of you that are new, joining us here in TLDChat, thanks for hanging out with us. It would be interesting for you to jump into the chat and introduce yourself. And everybody should. All of you that are here, even though you've done it every day that you jump in, go ahead and tell us who you are, what you do, all that fun stuff. And just so the new folks feel comfortable hanging out and chatting with us and you know, enjoying the day. Also, be sure to check out the question and answers section underneath the video. I try to remember to populate it with at least one question, but it's there for you to ask questions so that we can make sure that we cover them. If there's multiple questions, vote up the ones that you like, and we'll try to hit the most popular ones first. There should also be a poll available. It looks like we already have some votes in the polls. So I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, so please be sure to hit those up for sure and have some fun. So to the topic at hand, Shannon, projects. Oh my gosh. How do you deal with them?
I hire a virtual assistant.
Yay. All right. There's a step one. If you can, get someone else to do it. Okay, that's just show. Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.
No, well, you know, managing projects, any project doesn't have to be, you know, learning related, but managing projects, it takes a village. And when you are a sole proprietor like I am, it takes a virtual village, you know, and it takes all sorts of tools. And most commonly what I like to use for projects, and when I try to, you know, get my projects under, you know, harness them, it's all about Trello and it's all about Slack. Those are my two go-tos. And you think about the scope of the projects, and I don't know about you guys, you know, in the chat area, but the biggest complaint or the biggest barrier that hits is all about communication. You know, turnaround time isn't where we need it to be. Communicating with the subject matter experts isn't quite as smooth as we would like, or communicating with the steering committee group or business units. Typically, it's all about communication. Any type of communication tool that you can use to harness that really becomes an asset. So when I'm working on projects, those are the two tools that I depend upon. You know, so, and not to mention, you know, it's good for using it for your network. You know, so when you use a tool like Slack, or you can even set up, you know, Trello boards for your community if you really wanted to, you know, or Google Docs. Right now I've always been a fan of Evernote, but right now I've been trying to give Google Docs its fair due, you know, so I'm working on a project now where I'm using mostly Google Docs, and that seems to be working as well. So I think that in regards to projects, you got to use the tool that's best suited for you.
Yeah, fantastic. So we had a couple tools added into the mix there. I don't know if somebody is available there. We got, looks like, hey JD, how's it going? Good to see you in TLDChat. Appreciate you being here. But let's see. So you mentioned Trello. So let's see if I can go ahead. I'm guessing it's Trello.com. And probably slack.com. I'll just add that in there. Well, it didn't hyperlink, but people get the gist, right? You can Google. But I want to get it into the chat just so we can make sure that we can get it into the show notes. I don't think Craig's here yet today. He normally puts together our show notes. So I just want to make sure we capture some of these items that I think will be relevant. So we talk about so we've talked about, let's see, or mentioned Trello. We've mentioned Slack. We mentioned Google Drive as tools that we use. What about non-tools? Let's just kind of start at the beginning and talk just briefly about Perhaps let's start like way at the beginning. Like, how do projects start for us as training and learning and development professionals? I mean, you're a contractor, so it's a little bit different. But I know you've had experience.
I wasn't born a contractor
In this round. I know, right? Yeah. So you've got multiple experiences, lots of experiences in the industry, but how does that normally happen, right? In your past experiences or currently, what kicks off a project for us in our industry usually?
an event, usually.
Is that what type of event?
Well, it's what I call the why this, why now question. So usually what happens is that there is someone who shows up in your doorway and they say, we need training, woo, we need training. And then you have to say, okay, that's great. Let's not jump off the cliff. So why this, why now? And from there you do your root cause analysis, why, and try to get down to what really is happening within the business that requires training's attention or training's support, not a solution, because we're not a solution, folks. So it's now, how can we help make something better? And that's typically where it starts. And so then it's all about data collection. Okay, so you got one person in your office telling you that there's a problem about something somewhere.
Yep.
So now it's about going out and interviewing people, getting on the phone, doing some work observation, trying to really find out if what the people are telling you is really the truth, because you have the business sponsor story, you have somebody else's story, and somewhere in the middle, there is the problem.
There's reality.
So your job as investigators is trying to solve, you put on a detective hat, you really do, and trying to create a crime scene that you're going to have to do an analysis on. So that's really where it starts. At least it always did for me.
Yeah.
So I know really was your typical, even back in the day, I was not your typical order taker. I was not the smile and nod person.
Yeah. What is it? So what causes them to come to your door and say, we need training, make us training, to trigger you to do that analysis? What is it usually in your experience that triggers them to do that? And is there a typical department or other area of the business that usually is responsible for that shout out?
Well, I always said that when you take over a leadership role in learning and development, they're going to want one of three things. They're going to want leadership development, customer service, sales, and sometimes safety. And you can set your watch by it, man. You haven't even unpacked your plant, and someone's in your office saying, we need leadership development courses, ding. And so so those come from HR, they come from operations, they come from everywhere. But really, it's because someone needs, here's how I like to think about it. There's three buckets. Someone needs help. Something is going to change, or someone needs help, someone's going to change, or someone's doing something wrong. Okay, so your job is to figure out which of those three buckets does that request fall into. And those three are usually the drivers. And then what happens is that you couple that with the purpose then. Okay, so something's changing. Okay, so why is it changing? It's either to increase revenue, to avoid a cost, or to improve a service. And so once you connect the first bucket with the second bucket, then you can then go on.
Got it.
That's typically where I'm kind of doing. You see those graphics of, where someone's talking and then you have a speech bubble up here and you see on like Tetris, all of the puzzle pieces are trying to fit together. That's kind of my mind when I'm talking to a business sponsor, is that I'm trying to reorganize the blocks, as they're talking, and then figure out where does the project start, if indeed a project needs to be started.
Right.
In some cases, just whip up a job aid and call it a day.
Yeah. Well, I love it. I was just checking out the chat while you were talking there, and you mentioned some of the points that JD mentioned in the chat, but I love the business metric tanked, and they don't know why, so they assume that it's a learning problem. We used to call that sheep dipping at Intel. Every time that would happen, one person screws up, and so the whole entire company has to be trained on that issue just to cover the bases. The old shotgun approach. But I like Mike's comment too. An executive read an article on a plane that said your employees need more training.
That's so sad.
That's sad, but we know to a certain extent it's real and it happens. It's like
you know why it's real. You know why it's real. It's because that we haven't trained ourselves to ask the right questions yet.
Yeah.
So when HR comes to you and says on their employee survey index that employees are asking for more training, we've said this time and time again, our role is to ask, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And even that's even a loaded question on an employee survey index survey is, what kind of training do you think you need? That's very loaded. Very loaded. Well,
just when they ask, do you get enough training, or would you like more training? Like somebody's going to say no. Like, no, thanks. I don't need any free professional development or anything like that at this company. Thanks for the offer, but I'd rather just struggle on my own.
I can Google that all by myself.
Yeah, I mean, some people might say that on the form, but so that it always rises to the top, right? And so then executives go, well, what's the fastest way for us to check this box? Oh, let's get lynda.com and order that for the whole entire company and give everybody access. That will solve all of our training problems, right? Because now they've got training, like all sorts of it, like gajillion courses.
Okay, so Sam's already made me need to pull out my dictionary this morning. Sound like a what?
Yeah. Oh, so here, hold on a second. You know what I'm going to do? I thought it was just me, but your audio is a little bit garbled. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick you out of the video, and then I'm going to re-invite you, and maybe it will reset.
Rude, right? Rude.
No, sorry. It's just how it works. Okay. I'll send you another invite. Hold on. And I should be playing some music in the background here, but I have none. So sorry, folks. Wow, look at all the wonderful people that are here. I'll take this as an opportunity to say thanks for hanging out with us. Appreciate that, all of you. It's good stuff. And now if I can only find Shannon's name in the list. All right.
Hello?
Oh, much better so far.
Much better?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was on the software side. So this is good. Not so garbly. I'm surprised nobody said something sooner. Thanks for pointing out, Sam. I seriously thought it was just me, because there were times before with other guests that it sounded garbled to me, but it sounded great to everybody else, so I didn't want to mess with it. But if it was sounding bad for everyone, then I appreciate the heads up. So, all right, so let's get back to this whole thing on the project. So now we know how projects have started, and we get one. We know we have to do some analysis. We've decided that, yes, indeed, we have to do something. It's a project. We're going to be needing to do some work. What do you do first from a project management perspective? Let's try to have the conversation as generically as possible and not go into, well, it's this type of training, or it's that type of training, or it's this type of training. From the project perspective, really, like what do you do to kick off your process?
I have a kickoff meeting. No project starts without a kickoff meeting. And that's getting all of the interested buyers, if you will, into the same room. So that way we have consensus on the direction of the project. Because we've all been there. We have all been to that point where we're at the point of either delivering something, and then some bubblehead shows up and says, "What? I didn't approve that," and then off it goes. So be sure to have a kickoff project with everyone who has veto power in the room. And so that's how it usually kicks off. And from there, you assign tasks.
Okay, hold that thought, because you're starting to get garbly again, and I can't figure out what is going on. I think it might be, you sound good. I think it might just be a bandwidth issue, because the video is kind of degrading a little bit too.
Is that any better?
No, it's still gargly.
More coffee. That's it. More coffee. Coffee solves everything.
Well, everybody brought some coffee, right? Except for you folks in the UK. It's happy hour for you. So, yeah, let's see here. Let me disconnect you and reinvite you one more time and just see if that resets something.
Hello.
All right, you're back. Sounds good now.
That's just weird.
Let's hope it stays that way.
JD's just rude.
Yes, I did, but it's too early for me. But have at it, folks. So what triggered in my mind was I love that, right? So getting in the consensus, getting the buy-in, and preparing for that kickoff meeting. But let's dig right down into those tactical details. What are some of the elements of preparing for that kickoff meeting? Like, what are some of the things? Let's step back and that's kind of the thing that needs to get done. But there's got to be a bunch of stuff that you do to prepare for that kickoff meeting, right?
Right. And at this point is where I'm doing data collection. So between the request and the kickoff meeting, that's where I am solidifying my proposal, if you will. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay a proposal in front of them, and I'm going to say, here is good, better, best solutions as far as from what I can determine from my analysis. And let them choose between good, better, best. And within each good, better, best, I'm also developing a list of features and benefits, if you will. Because at this point, it becomes a sales operation, because you obviously want them to choose the best, but the best may cost a lot of upfront money. So you want to be sure that you can connect that to some sort of ROI. All of them need to connect to some sort of business ROI. So that's what you're doing in between the time that somebody calls for a training solution to be put into place and the time that you're sitting off your kickoff meeting. Also during this time, so I'm doing my analysis, I'm writing my project report or my analysis report, creating my proposal, but I'm also now setting up my tools. So now I'm setting up an area in Slack for communication, but I'm also setting up my project in Trello, so that, because you can communicate through Trello as well. So now it's just a matter of using plan A and plan B. Plan A is Trello with a backup of Slack. So that way everyone is hooked in, everyone can immediately see what their tasks or proposed tasks are within Trello and or Slack at the kickoff meeting, because you want everything set up. Everything, because kickoff means we're going to kick off like football, right? We're going to kick the ball and we're all going to run. So now at the kickoff meeting, we're kicking the ball and now everyone's got to run. And so here's what everyone's job is.
Sorry, that was me. Yeah,
okay.
Sorry, that was me. I muted myself. Hoping I will free some bandwidth or something. Probably not, but all right. Anyways, so what I was going to say was all of that stuff is super important. But as you start to rattle off all of those things, I start to think in my mind, how long does that take? Like, so you're going to have to, as a consultant, especially, you block off time to do that kind of work. Do you have any sort of idea or general idea when you start a new project that, okay, getting from, yes, I know we have a project now, to that kickoff meeting, how long does that normally take?
Okay, so great question, Brent, by the way. This can take as long or as short as you need it to. And this is a common misperception amongst a lot of trainers that are out there who don't have instructional design experience, because it's very overwhelming. They go, oh, I just need to get the training out there. I don't need to do all this upfront stuff. And so there are times where I have taken a week, and not 8 hours a day a week, but a couple of, an hour here and an hour there during the course of a week between the time where we determined a solution was needed and the kickoff meeting that might be happening the following Monday. In some cases, depending upon the project itself, what you can do is you chunk it out. Excuse me. So for example, I worked on a sales project with the last organization that I was with, and we totally redid the whole sales methodology all the way from hire to retire. So we're not going to tackle that all in one kickoff meeting. So now it's really about talking to the business sponsors and determining what is the priority. So the priority here was, there were two things. We can change the sales methodology, but that's not going to do anything unless we change the hiring process. So let's talk about the hiring process first. So that's where we went, okay, when we put it on a scale and we think about what's the risk-benefit ratio, well, let's deal with the risks first. And the risk is that if we don't hire the right people, the new sales methodology is going to be squat. So let's deal with that. And so once we had it prioritized, then again, you can take a week, you can take a month, however long you need and how quickly it needs to be put out. So my first advice is that chunk out your project and deal with the chunks. And then at the end, you put it all together. So, that old joke, right? Eating an elephant. So that's how we eat the elephant.
Yeah, most of the problems we deal with, I've found, have multiple what's the word I'm looking for? Source problem areas, that you can identify, right? And to your point, yep, it's rarely just a training solution that's going to solve this problem that triggered the need for us to do something, or for them to ask us to do something. It's normally just one symptom of multiple organizational issues that should surface and be discussed. And so to your point, it's got a little bit to do with hiring, it's got to do with compensation, it's got to do with management, how people are managed, how the work is managed in general, the personalities within the business, all of those different things. And we can't be responsible for that entire elephant, but how much of that excuse me, do you bring up in that meeting, right? I mean, it's very political, and you obviously you don't want to poke too many bears while you're, in the zoo, but what's a good, how do you judge that?
Well, it really is about knowing your audience. Do you know your organization and what bears you can poke and what bears you cannot poke? But with me, it's all about the line of questioning. So it's very careful questioning here. So I'll give you an example here. I was just talking with a client a couple of weeks ago, and we were working out a curriculum for them, because they wanted to work on kind of like train the trainer stuff, but they were in a short time frame. And so I was working on that curriculum with them and trying to build the strategy around that train the trainer. And this was a guy who, he's very informed. So, experienced L&D type of person, and still came to me and said, well, we don't have a whole lot of time, so I don't want a whole lot of activities. And it's like, okay. So now we've got to back that truck up a little bit, right? And so now it's a matter of, I know this person and I know their personality. So now the questioning becomes different. So it becomes then what I like to say, it's the phrase that pays, is help me understand ... So help me understand your thought behind X. Help me understand why you are feeling Y. Help me understand whatever it is. So that way they can come to their own epiphany. And in this case, he came to his own epiphany.
Yeah, and phew for you, right?
Right, right. Because it would have been, and even back when I was working in a corporation, and I worked for some large corporations. I mean, I've had some pretty heavy duty gigs. And even then it was a matter of saying, look, okay, but I will do this, but you need to know this will not work in a very upfront way. And that eventually would have been, if the client hadn't come around, that's eventually the conversation that I would have had to have, is to tell him up front, you know what, you may want to do this, but this is not going to work. And maybe it's best that you not, spend your money in this area. And it's a tough conversation to have, but you need to have it.
Right. It's like, I'll take your money and I'll do what you want me to do, but I don't think it's going to be successful. That's a brutal way to go.
Yep, and it is, and that's what you put, and that's all part of your proposal, people. So in your projects, and you're working on your proposal, and I say proposal not because it as a consultant to client, but you should be obviously that business consultant within your organization. So you should be putting together a proposal for them, and within that proposal, you're writing the risk statement that if you don't do this or this or this or this, this is what the result is going to be. And you're asking them to sign off on that. So that way when the scope changes, you can go back to them and say, look, because we all know, we've all been there where something fails. And then they go, oh, it's all training's fault. Well, you know what? No, because in the proposal, I said if we didn't do X, Y, Z, then this would not work the way that we had thought. And you know what? You guys didn't do X, Y, Z.
Yeah, there's a lot of CYA for the XYZ, so I understand that position quite well. So we're at the 8:30 mark, and this is always the point where I at least try to manage TLDChat a little bit and keep a mild structure to it. This is where I like to just stop for a second and make sure we've got all of our questions answered, give Shannon a moment to answer things in the chat and do things while I also give a shout out to those people in the chat. Thank you very much for hanging out with us, and to also reiterate the fact that we do have a newsletter, and the TLDC community at tldc.us. And if you guys have not done so yet, head on over there and sign up for the newsletter, or the non-newsletter as we like to refer to it at times. But we're trying not to flood your inbox, but when we do send something, know that we feel it's important to the community, and we'd also like for you to engage with us and let us know what you would like to see more of, what you would like to see less of, and give us an idea of how this is working for you. Is this a community you can hang with or not? And I'll also take this moment to make a big announcement. Not a lot of details around it yet, but TLDC 17. This is a good news, bad news thing. There will be no TLDC 17. Oh, collective groans and moans from the audience. But there will, there will be TLDC 18 in January. So we just announced that in the newsletter. So if you did not get that great news, it's because you are not part of the newsletter, and you need to go sign up so you can get all of that information up front. We are finalizing some details. Actually, Luis is flying into Phoenix today, so we'll be hanging out and prepping for some TLDC stuff. So very excited about that. Feel free to hit me up offline if you have any questions as we start to move forward. Mike, come on, you can't start spreading bad rumors like that. It's January. It's when everybody comes to Phoenix. It's the best time of the year. Come on. And for us Phoenicians, January is freezing cold. So if you see me walk through in a parka and you laugh at me, it's okay. I'm totally used to it.
Do Phoenicians walk like Egyptians?
Yes, we like to think we do, but it's only because we just don't know how to deal with any weather below 70 degrees. So yeah, it gets too cold for us. Too cold, too cold, too cold. Yes, don't start rumors like that, Matt. So anyway, so that's where we're at. So this is also a good point where I'd like to invite others, if you're interested in jumping into the conversation in the video and ask Shannon some questions or myself or the team or whatever, or if you have a case study, an interesting story that you would like to share, I'd love to have you jump in, share a quick story, and then we can all have some conversation around that. I think that would be fun as well.
Well, Katie asked an interesting question here. How do you sell a new idea? Katie, if you can give me some more detail on that, like what sort of idea? Are you talking about like a new methodology? Like how do we move from instructor-led to blended or micro or something like that? What can you help me out with a little context?
Yeah, and as she's either typing that or raising her hand, you can just type in the chat window, raise his hand if you'd like to jump in on the video. I'd also like to ask those of you in the poll where I asked, is your training team large enough to have someone that just manages the training projects? 4 of you said yes, and I'd be interested to know if you are that project manager, that training project manager, and that's all you do is manage projects, or if you're not, if you have somebody on your team, I'd love to hear more about that, because I know a lot of us in the industry don't have that luxury. We're not on those big teams in a large enterprise, and I would be really interested to hear how that all works out. Yeah, and to Paul's point, it's not necessarily the size of the company that matters, right? You may be a very, very large enterprise company, but your training team just is not big enough, or there is not a need yet for someone to just manage all of the projects that you're working on. So so that's important for us to chat about as well. So did you see any hands raised up in the chat? Anybody want to jump in on the video and share with us?
I didn't see any raised hands, but I did see Katie's comment there about generating surveys. So hold
that thought for 1 second, Shannon. You're getting googly gurgly again. So I'm gonna just, before we get deep into this, because this could go deep, I'm gonna close you out again and reset you, and we'll try this again.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. Wow, Katie. So Katie said that she had big difficulties sending a survey out, and it was not about collecting data, but about collecting stories to discover the culture. Yeah, I bet that was hard. I bet that was a hard sell. And I think that the way that I've approached surveys in a couple of different ways. First off, beg forgiveness. That's the first one, which none of you, I'm sure, would be shocked to discover. And secondly is about, again, having them come to their own epiphany. So it's interesting that you say culture, because one of the organizations that I worked for went through a cultural change, a cultural shift. And what leadership thought the culture was and what the actual culture was 2 different things. And I could see that from where I was at, but the leadership was really too close to the issue to be able to see it for themselves. And so what I asked them to do was, So tell me why this culture that you're trying to shift to, why is this important? And what would it mean if the organization wasn't following it? And they would all come to me and say, oh, well, we don't have to worry about that because they are. I said, well, that's okay. That's great. But just to answer my question, what do you think would happen if it weren't? What happens if the manager or the middle layer doesn't support the messaging that you're trying to send out? And then they come to their own answers on that. And I said, well, wouldn't you like to find that out? Wouldn't you like to know that now rather than wait until later when we can't back up? So again, it's about the questioning and to allow them to circle back, so then it becomes their own idea, because nobody argues with their own idea. So a lot of times that's how I handled it.
Yeah, for me, I'd like to just kind of add to that the culture stuff. So there's two interesting conversations that we can follow down here. One is the mergers and acquisitions, which adds a whole level of complexity to any culture, any business. But in general, the training department, we like to apply tools and technologies and to reach out and just try to get those answers, right? And I think a lot of what Katie's talking about is that social sensitive area where what it's really going to take to get the reality of it is one, time, but we can't use that as an excuse to wait, right? It takes time, because what you really have to be doing is engaging on a personal one-on-one level with the right people in really strategic parts of the organization. And I don't know if that means taking them to lunch, inviting them to another meeting is just, getting on their calendar in trouble, and they're going to have their guard up. So, hanging out with these folks in a less formal environment and getting to know them, and that is going to get you more at the heart of what the problem is. And then it's all about building relationships, right? It's about connecting with that community of folks, and that's going to, I think, give you more quality data and more value than what people are willing to give up in a survey. Because no matter how anonymous you tell them that it's going to be, everybody believes to some extent that whatever they say could circle around and bite them in the backside again. And so it's tough to use tech, to use surveys, things like that, to get at the real issues that might be going on.
Right. I always tell in my instructional design workshops, I tell people that surveys is your last resort, even though that's our go home to mama. That's our comfort zone. So it really is the last resort. What I'm a big fan of the focus group, man. I love a good focus group. And so put some people together, and you can do that virtually or face-to-face to try to find out some of the answers. But like you said, that informal stuff, and I think you can. I don't know if I go back, who said that it was tough to pull off authentically. It's not. None of it's part of your practice. So
you got to make it a day-to-day thing. Yeah.
Right. So if if you're going and you're making site visits once a month or once a week, or you're having lunch with people, or you're buying them pizza, or you're talking to people in the hallway, so I'll tell you, people got to where they were looking out their office doors into the hallway to see if I was lurking around, because they were like, oh my God, if I have to have another conversation with Shannon, I'm going to kill myself, so because I was always trying to find out what the heck is going on in the business. And so I wasn't waiting for a problem to present itself before I started asking questions about it, because I wanted to try and jump in front before we started having those sorts of conversations. But so that would be my response to that. I think you can do it authentically if it's part of your everyday practice. And Katie, I agree with you. That's where, it's not about teaching people. And sometimes that's where a lot of subject matter experts struggle, because they think that they always should be teaching somebody, not really discovering something. And I think that is just, it's just about us setting up the right tools to allow for discovery, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, and the great point, Katie, right? If you know the culture, you can design better training. If we become, and so as consultants and whatnot, this is difficult. But if you are in the mix,
Right.
training departments have traditionally been guilty of being that siloed organization. We work within our bubble. We have our own little processes, and you come to us, and we're the gatekeepers. And you've got to go. We make you jump through all these hoops. I guess I'm overgeneralizing. Maybe others have done this before, but it's traditionally, that's just kind of how, corporate business structures ended up working. The more successful training organizations that I've witnessed, talked to, learned about, worked in, whatever, were the teams that were actively engaged with all of the other departments at any level. Do you know who your IT guy is, right? Do you have a go-to IT guy? Do you know the person in legal? You're going to be going to them enough. If you do a lot of compliance training, you're going to be going to them enough. So you might as well get to know them, right? And build that relationship. Same with the C-level folks. If you're doing product training, if you don't know the engineers, the people that built the product, if you're not on a really good working relationship with them, it might be really hard for you to get some of those technical documents that they hoard and stay so close to, it's all about those relationships. It's such a huge part of what we do. And I've seen it on so many occasions, which is why I'm trying to, overemphasize it for those of you who may be struggling in this area. Do everything that you can to, you may be shy. A lot of people in the training world, right? We're shy and kind of quiet, and we don't really like to get out of our, training world and go engage with some of these other folks. But it's really, really important.
Right. And when it comes to, now if we circle back around the projects, understanding what's simmering at the surface of your organization helps you to write a proposal that best matches the need. Also, it helps you write a proposal that's best suited for their vocabulary. So because you don't want to write a proposal or an analysis report written in L&D language, you want to write one that's written in language that they understand, because then the odds are they're going to accept what you're saying. So having that grasp of knowledge helps you all over the place, So, with Brent's example with IT, the last company that I worked for, IT and finance were huge into fantasy football. I love football. I don't know if you can see back there, I've got some 49er stuff back there, and I've got my jerseys up here. But I love football, but I have no clue about fantasy football. So I went out and I learned about fantasy football so that way we could hang out one night while they were doing their fantasy football draft. Don't think that didn't help me when I needed IT's help when Salesforce.com did not integrate well with AS400. Right? So
gotcha.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. Absolutely. It's little things like that, and we sometimes, I think, apply that into, well, that's just more time that I have to take, and I don't have that kind of time. But it pays off in so many different ways by just taking that extra little bit of time.
Yeah. So it helps when you're writing your proposals, and so when you're at that kickoff meeting and everybody is studying what you've put in front of them, and hopefully what you've done is you've set the proposals ahead of time so that way they can review them before they get to the kickoff meeting. You put that into your Trello board and they can yank it from there and read it. If not, that's okay, but still they have, insight into where you're going to go, and it allows them to either build questions or to build a defense, because that's what they're going to do. You don't want the kickoff meeting to be one big old, complaint session, so you really want to get to the meat of the program there within your kickoff meeting.
Yeah. Hey, we got you being garbly again, so I'm gonna kick you out one last time, and I'm gonna have you back, and then we're gonna wrap up. How about that?
Okay.
All right, everybody. Let's get her back on screen. So sorry about this, everyone. This has been a great conversation. Yes, UK football versus American football is always an interesting topic. You know, I will tell everybody that for a while there, it looked like we were going to be having more UK members of TLD chat than US members, which I thought would have been surprising. But you came through, US, and you loaded up some more people. So not that it's a bad thing.
Yeah. UK football, or you know, the official football, I guess, is not. That never was a sport I could get behind. But you know what sport I really enjoy is rugby. So
it's fun. I just recently
I like rugby
too. Yeah, and it's a good time. It keeps moving, right? It's like it doesn't
and
slow down and stop so much.
There's a chance of a score.
Yeah, at any given time. All right, so quickly, we've mentioned as we're wrapping up, we've thrown out and listed some tools that we use for training and whatnot. But I want to give everybody a chance. And Shannon, pick a favorite app or a favorite tool that may not be one of the obvious ones that you use all the time, that you use every now and then for, even if it's just something for, every now and then, but it solves a particular niche need maybe, or something like that, if you can think of something. And everybody that's in the chat, throw something out too, if you can think of something, Do you have anything off the top of your head?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know what tool I've been using more and more is Session Lab.
Session Lab. Now, what is that?
Session Lab is a lesson builder.
A lesson. Interesting.
And it is freaking awesome.
Well, now that is a good.
Yes. You can use it to build. Yeah. So think about outside the box. So you can use it to create lessons. You can create a course, a module, and a lesson, and all of the tools shift. Not because, again, people who know me know how much I love my Post-it notes. So this acts kind of like Post-it notes in that you can move and shift the lessons around. So, they don't fit well here, you can move them up there. And then also you can start with a timer. So you say, I want this program or this course to take an hour. And so as you plug in different lessons, you can say this lesson is supposed to take 6 minutes, and then it will subtract that from the time and tell you how much time you have left to play with. Super cool, right? So,
yeah.
You can use this for e-learning as well. So think about creating lessons and storyboards, before you start plugging stuff into Captivate or Articulate, you can use it there. Also, think outside the box when it comes to things like, obviously, micro-learning. So you have your micro-learning lessons. But think about job aids. A lot of us open up Word or whatever tool you're using to create a job aid, which, by the way, I always use PowerPoint, but that's a story for a different day. When you create a job aid, you should have a goal or some sort of objective for your job aid. Where are you going to go with it? So you can use Session Lab to create your like a little checklist. Did I talk about how to the beginning, the middle, the end? Did I really reach my conclusion? Do people really know what they're supposed to do with this job aid by the time it's completed, or how people are supposed to be using it? So if you think outside of the box with it, there are a bazillion ways to use it, and I use that thing all the time, and it's free.
Oh, stop it.
Stop it. So you can get a paid version. The paid version is if you are collaborating on teams, so teams can work on lessons together, but that is paid. So obviously I'm a one-woman shop here, so I don't need the collaboration tool just yet. But still, it's the best thing that I've come across since sliced bread in a while. So that's my tool tip.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, I'll echo Mike and say awesome tool tip. That is, I'm definitely going to have to check that out for sure. I used to do the same thing with a spreadsheet. I had a standard template. I would use, that I would break it down into, okay, I know I have to do this, and this, so I'm just going to break it up into time zones, and then I just start then all you have to do is go in and fill the gaps with the content, right? And you can rotate things around and stuff, but it's a great place to start. But anyways, I just wanted to recognize Alexandros, who mentioned Unity 3D as another tool that's going to be big for e-learning going forward. And, you know, I would love to echo that and just say, kind of explain in the few minutes remaining here, you know, why I think it's important. You know, in general, right, lots of folks are using it right now, but one particular area that I look to the future of our industry is in what the military is doing and what companies, what is the military and the government, what are they paying for? What are they looking towards? What are they doing? Where are the big things happening? And I hadn't been to the ITSEC conference in a long time. And I went this past year, and there is an educational area of simulations and training and whatnot, and they have a contest, and it's mostly kids in academia and whatnot. Just about, I would say, a good 90% of the tools of the solutions that were provided there, they had Internet of Things attached to their, you know, solutions and whatnot, but it was all Unity 3D. And that's what really opened my eyes to, okay, this is like Unity 3D is the authorware of the 21st century, right? When authorware first came out, that was a pretty big damn deal, and it was awesome for us to be able to do our work a little bit better and bigger. But Unity 3D is fantastic, and it excels at simulations and VR. But honestly, it also does really good 2D stuff too. You can, you know, some of the stuff I looked at on the screen and I thought, kind of looks like it might be Flash with a little bit of a 3D element embedded in it or something like that. And they're like, no, it's all Unity. So I don't think us as a development community or industry really understands the full power of Unity. And I think that's something that everybody should kind of look into. So that's my final tip on that. Shannon, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and your work?
They can find me at learningrebels.com. You can find me on Twitter at @stipton. You can find me on Facebook. Learning Rebels has a page there as well. If you can't find me, there is something seriously wrong. The zombie apocalypse has shown up.
Yes, learningrebels.com. Cool. Sam beat me to it. I got your Twitter handle in there, but and Sam got the link. So a good tag team there. Well, thank you so much for hanging out and talking projects with us today.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do it again for sure. I'm going to go ahead.
Yeah, so we can get to the back end of the projects. we only got to the.
I know. Well, there's a lot to talk about, and we've got a lot of Tuesdays ahead of us. So I got to try to drill as deeply as we can, or else we're going to run out of things to talk about. So it's good that we didn't make it all the way through. We can build some anticipation.
We can. Anticipation.
All right. On that note, I'm going to close you out and do a little bit of closing housekeeping stuff, and we will see you next time. All right.
Jazz hands. Bye.
Close this out. It's 9 o'clock, but I still wanted to mention heading over to TLDC.us and sign up for the newsletter. Also, find out more about TLDC, the conference coming up in January next year, TLDC 18. It's so close, though, it almost feels like it's going to be a TLDC 17, but didn't squeeze one in the calendar year, but it's definitely coming up just as fast. So let's get ready for that. Ping me offline if you want to participate in some way or you want to find out more information. Also, again, join the newsletter and share what we're doing with your colleagues and get them involved with the community. Really, the more folks we have sharing case studies, experiences, and the work that they do, I think the more effective we can all be in the work that we do. So, I know most of you that are in here right now, and you guys are all doing some fantastic work. There's some new faces here. and that I will get to know you in the work that you're doing, and we will make sure that that gets highlighted and shared if you want it to. But that's why we're here. We share with each other, we learn from each other, and we make everybody better at what they do in general, from the tactics up to strategies and everything in between when it comes to training, learning, and development. So thanks again, everybody. This has been a good day, a good conversation. Let me queue up tomorrow's for you. Tomorrow is Wednesday. That means we're talking about teams, but I have a special guest coming in tomorrow. His name is Vincent Orlick, and he is a social media guy. He has a social media company called Brandish here in Phoenix. He is a good friend, and he's going to be talking to us about social media stuff. So Mike told us about Pinterest and some data around video that I thought was really important for us. I don't know if that kind of subtly blew by everyone, but if you're thinking what Mike Chesno had to say is way outside of the box and doesn't impact us, he dropped some serious data knowledge on us yesterday that I think speaks to a lot of the work we do when it comes to talking about micro learning and the length of videos that people are willing to watch and things like that. So, so just because Vincent isn't necessarily one of us, we'll give you a little bit of a teaser and tell you that as a social media and branding and marketing, digital marketing company that he runs, they are looking to get into learning more and more. And this is not at all uncommon to be hearing that from digital marketing people. You know, learning as a marketing tool is becoming a big deal and a big market. So, so I think it's going to be a great conversation to have, whether we run down that rabbit hole or another one. I'm not exactly sure yet, but that's the fun of doing this, right? So it's all a good time. And so, so that's Wednesday. Thursday, we have the famous and fabulous Andrew Hughes from Designing Digitally. That will be intense. He can talk Unity 3D with us because his team is doing a lot of Unity stuff. So that'll be fun. And then, of course, Friday is Video Friday, everybody's favorite day. So we will be talking video and talking live streaming video with another social media guy that's really into live streaming, and he was one of our keynotes at TLDC 16, and that's iSocial Fans. Brian Fanzo is going to be joining us. So we're definitely looking forward to that conversation and talking again about, you know, just there's a lot of that overlap between marketing and branding and content creation and live streaming video and all of those things that I don't think we really talk that much about in our industry, but I do think is incredibly important and has a lot of impact in the work that we do. So thanks everybody for hanging out. I apologize for going long today. I'm getting better at this with each passing day, but you know it happens. So thanks for hanging out. I really appreciate it, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Everybody have a great day.